Matt Ober, welcome to the show.
Hey everybody, how you doing?
Awesome. So you are the co-founder and CTO of Pinata. Pinata makes IPFS fast and stable. So you are storing our data on chain. Um, I'm curious, maybe just to start off and contextualize this, because I think, I don't know, storage and all this sort of stuff was very hot back when I got into crypto, and apparently it's just not the most hot thing right now. We just like to punt meme coins, but IPFS wasn't fast or stable when you started building. So I'm curious, what did you have to go build to make it production ready and useful for companies like OpenSea, DraftKings, etc.?
Yeah, great question. Gosh, it's been about 7 years now. I think 2018 is when we started. Uh, we were building a bunch of projects internally, working kind of in the ETH ecosystem, and a common theme kept coming up, which was we needed a way to store a lot more data. The chains didn't support it, so IPFS was kind of the front runner at that time, but it was really difficult to work with. And yeah, long story short, we built something for ourselves to reuse, and we're like, wait a minute, other people would probably benefit from this too. And here we are, 7 years later. We've we've grown a lot since then. Matured a lot, and seen a lot of really interesting use cases. So, you said storage isn't too hot right now, but honestly, our metrics disagree. We're seeing a ton of new use cases. The NFTs are still here, the meme coins are still here, but um, we talked about AI agents on the last call as well. The last caller was talking about that. Huge use case there. A lot of the stuff Eric's talking about with content, social. This is all becoming a hotbed for IPFS and what we're doing here. So yeah, we're still pretty excited.
Yeah, I mean, I think
And happy to talk.
600,000 developers, I think you touted. Maybe the website even is out of date now. Who knows? That's been the fun thing as
Just a
companies
bit.
are growing, right? Yeah. Um, yeah, I guess this is the conversation about X402. You're provisioning a sort of a base service here that a lot of developers need. What do when Eric gives you a call and says, "Hey, come join this cool new thing that we're doing"? What was the thing that made you say, "Hell yeah"?
Yeah, so X402 got us really excited when we saw it, because in our mind, how we're viewing this is it's a standardized bridge from Web3 to Web2. It allows these Web2 companies to jump in a way that's been kind of friction filled, historically speaking. It doesn't need them to like maintain a lot of complex Web3 infrastructure. It just says, hey, accept this standard. You're going to work with a facilitator, whether it's Coinbase's or somebody else's, right? And they're going to handle all that dirty work for you. And you're just going to be able to accept payments and work within a standard API framework. And we think this is super powerful. So the other thing that we really like about this is it's following this trend of blockchains and Web3 ecosystem getting faster and faster, more scalable, more throughput. Uh, this has kind of followed the own Pinata journey, right? We started on one little IPFS node, and now we're running this like giant cloud infrastructure. Uh, it's just allowing more things to happen. So when we talk about things like micropayments, being able to pay on like a per view basis, right? We're in the business of content and allowing people to serve and upload content at scale. So when we see a new framework that comes on the scene that's going to let people in the content industry upload and serve content in a way that kind of allows a lot more unique use cases, we're going to get really excited about that.
Eric, I'm curious, when you are chatting with Matt behind the scenes, like what are the things that you are looking or desirous of Pinata to build or implement that will kind of make your job of advocating for the standard
I
easier?
think the interesting thing is this is the second time I've ever seen Matt on a video call. The Matt and team they adopted on like day 2 of X402 being announced publicly, and they didn't talk to us. They just did the thing. And I talked to them a couple weeks ago to get some feedback and just connect. But they've had an X402 integration out for I think like 4 months now, and I think the thing that's really interesting. By the way, Pinata was like the #1 transacting API for X402 last week. So shout out to Matt and the team. I think it's exactly what Matt said and kind of Bob alluded to is when you have these AI agents, ideally like you don't need to manage 20 different subscriptions, and storing data is like such a critical task. right? And so if you're an AI agent, you can autonomously decide like, oh, I need to store this for later. It's not guaranteed that it like just exists in my context window. IPFS and autonomously paying for storage on IPFS is just such a natural fit, where you could throw like a vector embedding or like, you know, a bunch of text or like some images you generated as an agent, and not need to have like your developer have had set up a, you know, an S3 bucket or like something else that requires the human's credit card to be down, and like you to have this like capability of storage. And so I see Pinata as like a super valuable like core primitive of what agents are going to need to do, is just store stuff. And it's great.
Matt, help me understand, like, what are the value of these transactions right now? Like, if here's the most transacted call or user of X402 last week, what is the value of the average transaction that's going through there?
You caught me off guard. I'd have to check our internal metrics.
I mean, even just a sense,
but...
because I'm trying to get a sense of like, yeah. So if we believe in sort of one of the consistent barriers, I think, in believing that crypto is actually, or blockchains are actually going to be like the fundamental underpinning of, say, something like agents, is the idea that costs are going to come down significantly. And so in the example that Eric just gave here, if I'm running a workflow and I need to go store data, there's a chance that that could be a very important. Maybe it's not huge, maybe it is, but as a developer, I'm going to be very cost sensitive at being able to go serve that. And I guess I just come with this belief that the crypto version is just going to be a little bit more expensive for now, and maybe you can disavow me of that.
Yeah, it really depends. So there's a lot of options out there for people that are looking to store their data. Pinata is actually, believe it or not, pretty much price competitive with many of the main storage solutions you'd be familiar with out there. In some cases, we can beat those. It really just kind of depends on what you're looking to solve and kind of how, you know, what hammer you're looking for which nail. So in our case, right, Pinata as a platform has really emphasized speed, stability, scalability, and just general like uptime performance. So these are things that are super important to us, as well as user experience. So we will always kind of optimize for those core pillars. To get back to your initial question on like how much data is flowing through this right now, what we have out right now is a V0, as I'll call it. We're kind of testing the waters. We're planning on some new things here coming out very soon to kind of expand those waters. We've learned a lot. We've learned a lot about what people are looking for, and just other general areas of like how we can improve this whole ecosystem.
Like what?
And it's not.
You can't tease me and get me not to ask. Like,
you got to get the alpha here. It's 11 a.m. We got to provide alpha. Yeah. So to give you a kind of insight on what we're thinking about here, the first integration, right, basically is just allowing people to touch on uploads, and then you can kind of do some signed up retrieval on the private file side. But what we're finding out here is that people really want to be able to charge for their own content. So the previous caller was talking about, can't remember if it was you, Eric, or him, but you guys were talking about news articles, right? So one of the things that's really impactful here right now and really powerful about X402 is, I think, Eric, you said it's about 50 cents to $1 is about the minimum you can do right now on credit card side. And most of that is taken away in fees. So you're spending $1 here, and that's because you're taking, the credit card's taking 50 cents in a fee, right? So your margins are getting squeezed. If we're talking like a pay-per-view news article here, right? Let's say, as an example, right, Wall Street Journal wants to come in here and they want to charge $1 or $2 per view. They can do that and not get 50 cents taken away from that experience. It's allowing them to kind of extract a lot more margin from that in a way that's a lot more business sustainable. Okay, so how does that translate to Pinata? Right, we're looking at ways where we're going to allow people to actually monetize their content using X402 directly via Pinata's infrastructure. So every user on Pinata gets a dedicated IPFS gateway. Okay, now we're going to give you the ability to sell your content in a way that should be pretty user-friendly. And that's like the beginning stages of it.
Because I just don't I just don't believe that people want to go pay even 2 cents to view an article. You know, like it seems like there's a big barrier even if you're going to ask me to pay. And yeah, that'll be my question here. Who are the users? What do they want to use it for?
Yeah, I mean, surprisingly, it's been something that like we've seen a lot, right? Even my co-founder and I were having a conversation on this the other day. He's like, well, I pay for a subscription to the Wall Street Journal. And I'm like, I don't, because I don't want to pay the subscription every month. However, I would personally pay $1 or $2 to read an article. Now, granted, that's very anecdotal evidence, but you do
I
hear it a
still
lot,
believe it.
right?
I don't believe it. Don't
You
believe
don't
it.
believe it.
I don't believe
What
it.
part of
I don't
the
think it's the friction of the amount that ultimately gets in. I think it is like the friction of the decision. And I think there might be edge cases for it. Like, yes, if there's like a very specific, like maybe if it's, where I need to enter my email in to go get a download. If there's some high value report, I could see myself paying for that. But other than that, I don't want to have to be making a million buying decisions every single day. I'm just going to kind of ignore it, or abstract that away to somebody who's like maybe an agent that's actually making those decisions for me. I can get on board with that.
I think
Yeah.
that's the key thing is the abstraction, right? Like, you may not want to decide. You certainly don't want to enter your credit card 50 times a day, but you might be fine with saying like, hey, I have like $1 budget. Just auto purchase anything that's less than 10 cents for me. Like, anytime I click a page and it needs 10 cents for me to like read the article, just auto buy it, right? And you can now do that because it's all programmatic money. And then I think further, almost anyone would say, I'm fine with my agent spending 50 cents to give me a better answer. Like, I'm asking my agent to do like some kind of research task. If I can give the agent a budget to access paywalled content, and then the thing that I get back is actually meaningfully better. And that's actually the thing we've already seen quite a few teams do. And that is like such an interesting like human trait of like the agent spending 50 cents from better information is like such an easier decision than you personally spending 50 cents for better information.
Yeah,
But
I'm on board with that. I'm on board
yeah.
with that. I think that it is really this like, because I think we sort of get into like maybe engineering think here, which is like this is going to be better and therefore people will see it as better, and yet I think that is just often not the case. And so thinking about how we sort of create these abstractions that make it more comfortable for us to actually move through the world, and I think like this idea of assigning a budget to a category that I'm interested in, or a job to be done, and it kind of just being drawn down feels like maybe the right step here. And but even then you're maybe asking me to make sort of decisions on a monthly basis to top it up versus not. So I guess I still see like there's just like this wild stickiness of making one decision and that decision just the subscription just continuing to go on.
I think there's like a really undervalued aspect or underconsidered aspect where these things have all been theoretical until really like X402 and different content partners like Pinata and others have made it pragmatic to actually perform this action. And so we're at like the technology layer of now technology is possible, and now we get to iterate on UX. And we definitely need to iterate on the UX and like how it feels to humans, but that's like the work to be done now, and the work to be done as like X402 gets broader adoption and it becomes even possible. Because I'm also sure that people in the like 90s were like, wait, I'm gonna go sit at a computer every time I want to read the news? No, I'm just gonna like take my newspaper to wherever I am.
For sure. And again, I think as I frame this conversation to you, I'm going to be the dummy in the room here, and I love that I get to play that role. And I'm with you. I think that there's there's sort of there's nuances, like the opportunities in the nuance here, right? And I think even in the examples you've provided here, like if there's a high value job to be done for me, and there's like a marginal cost of doing that in the pennies or dollars, and I'm not having to make the million decisions that go into actually maximizing that value, and yet I get a way better answer back. Yeah, I'm probably going to be willing to do that. And so me thinking of it through the lens of like maybe the newspaper example is just like very unhelpful to me here, because we're already paywalls pop up all the time, and I think the vast majority of people sort of ignore them. But I think the provisioning or access of that data, or the sort of tapping into data sets that are not publicly available, so that the answers I get back or the workflows I do, there I can get it. And so Matt, I'm curious. I think you and Coinbase ran an Agents in Action hackathon fairly recently here, right? So we're trying to sort of push forward use cases of X402. I'm curious if are there any killer apps or sort of agent payment type of flows that emerge from that might be good examples for us here?
Not any that I would touch on right now. I think a lot of it's been pretty early exploratory. A lot of people are kind of getting their feet wet. As Eric said, we are very early. We're kind of trying to figure out, first of all, what can we do technically? But then Eric alluded to the next point there, which is the user experience needs to improve a lot on top of that, right? So, even just a little bit ago, I was talking about what we're going to offer on the technical side. That's great and all, but the end user doesn't care about that. They just want to, as you alluded to, Jess, is they want something easy where they can jump in and get the thing they want. And I think that's really the key theme that we're seeing from a lot of this is it's less the paywall and it's more of not needing to commit to something, right? So you're able to kind of dip your toes in, get something that you are interested in, but you don't want to provide a credit card, an email, a subscription, and know that you're committing to something that if you forget or you don't like it, right, you got to go back and cancel, and then it just becomes this whole big thing. So
that is a great point, right? There's this other burden on the side of SaaS or subscriptions, which is like, okay, well, what am I getting myself into here? And maybe I'm not holding that sort of friction and barrier up to the same level of importance as I should here, because I definitely feel that when I still subscribe to the New York Times, for God's sakes. I think I pay them $2 a month. I cannot for the life of me find what email I used to sign up with a thing, because I probably tied my email in it. I'm like, they're getting $2 a month from me for nothing, and yet maybe it's just the friction of me even going in to figure out how to cancel is actually working in their favor. So I'm far less likely to go sign up for the Wall Street Journal, probably because of that.
And I think SaaS subscriptions in their current form are not necessarily an evil thing, right? If people very much value the service that they're subscribing to, right? Subscriptions can be a great thing and can often incentivize the companies to provide more value to the end customer if they're committed to the company is the same way. It goes both ways. So we get really excited about X402 because it allows people to kind of test the waters of things before they can, dive full in and say, yeah, this is the thing I really love. This is a service I really love. I'm talking from the consumer standpoint. There's the whole other world of agent-to-agent economy that I think Eric can talk about as well.
Let's go there, because I think there's some of the big news that came out of OpenAI over the last couple of weeks. One obviously was sort of the developer day yesterday, and sort of the expansion of the tool sets to go build agents. So there's I think interesting debate around that. But I think before that was this integration with Shopify, the idea that you'd be able to actually make purchases directly within it. And I guess I'm curious. It feels like they're sort of layering on top an old paradigm into this sort of new platform that brings a lot of the friction, limitations, credit cards, payment rails, et cetera, with it. I guess I'm curious how, is that just sort of the MS-DOS version of this world that we're getting into, and the, I don't know, the Internet Apple version of it is actually going to be X402?
I mean, it's tough to say. These are all emerging standards and emerging marketplaces, right? But I think if you go look, I read through the documentation on that new OpenAI standard, and it's very cart based. It's really meant for e-commerce checkout, right? Which is slightly different than what X402 can do. There's no kind of direct payment mechanism in it, and then it's very tied to particular ways of spending money and particular rails. Right. Whereas X402 tries to be a little bit more agnostic as to the underlying payment mechanism. And so it's, Google had AP2 recently as well. And you're having all these standards and formats emerge. And, because there's fundamentally this problem of how do you transmit value between programs now? Everyone realizes agents are going to need to pay other agents. So how are they going to do that? And I think the fear in my mind is that we end up in an AOL branch of the life path versus the World Wide Web branch of the life path. And I think that people underestimate that it's a given that open wins. I think you have to work hard and advocate and really push for open standards and open access to be the path that we actually end up on. There's absolutely a world where we ended up where AOL kind of is the gatekeeper to anybody being able to create content or post websites, and the internet could look very different than it has for all of our lifetimes. And so I think it's not good enough for standards to be open. They also need to be neutral. They also need to be usable without any like central authority. They need to be unopinionated as to like the underlying mechanisms and not biased too heavily against particular mechanisms. And so you can use HTTP from any number of people. In fact, like I think a great test is if I have time and I'm a developer, can I go from zero, no dependencies, zero code, nothing, to a functioning version of the thing that I'm using independently? And the answer with HTTP is yeah, you can write an HTTP library from scratch. Same with X402. You can implement the X402 standard with zero dependencies from scratch if you just follow the spec. And that I think is like a great litmus test for these standards and these emerging economies to match the neutrality and the openness of the World Wide Web.
So Matt, I think you guys said that you built the integrated X402 in about a day. And I'm assuming kind of what Eric is talking about here was kind of a core component of the speed of being able to implement that. I guess I'm curious what you see as like the barriers, the frictions, or at least the clear pathways. What do you need to go do to really elevate this to the level where you guys are, sort of see it as a core function or offering or utility of Pinata?
It's a great question. And it's hard because like we're really early, right? And if I'm too prescriptive right now of saying like what we need, I almost feel like we're defining our destiny. I think, Eric, you said it best. X402 is in basically a V0 right now, and you guys are expecting to make mistakes, and then it's going to be a V1 and a V2, and right, things are evolving. We're already in talks of like kind of next ways we can evolve the spec. But I think the key thing is that right now it is very flexible, right? It's very minimalistic. We were able to spin up in hours because it is such a simple protocol, and it is very just easy to plug in with a lot of the facilitator work that the Coinbase team has done. Open sourcing, right? You can even run your own facilitator or use Coinbase's. I think in terms of like work that needs to be done, really awareness is probably one of the big things. Is just the more people that realize like, hey, I don't need to pay 50 cents for every like micro payment that I do with a credit card, it less becomes a technological decision and more a practical business decision. If I can get instantly settled micro payments, I'm using the term micro payments, but like it's just a business decision. It just makes sense. So the more people that are aware of kind of how it works, what it can offer, I think the more adoption you'll see.
Yeah, I think it has been really interesting to see the energy around this. And I think maybe for most people who are listening here, maybe you're not in the same sort of algorithmic loops that these gentlemen are, but there's been a wide adoption or interest compared to at least where my expectation level was from not just crypto companies, I think, broader internet infrastructure companies. And, it's the smart people that I know that I sort of identified as being far more, smart and connected to what's coming next from a technical perspective are the ones talking about this right now. And so, I don't know how interesting this is going to be for the vast majority of our audience or the broader timeline, but my sense is that this is the type of thing that is just going to seem like it's off the radar until it's just everywhere. And so it's at the very, very least worth paying attention to. So maybe to cap us off here, if people are intrigued, if people want to just pay attention to this because they want to take the over on this technology, where's the best place for them to follow along? Maybe I'll go to you first, Matt, because I think you guys are building, in production in an interesting way. And then Eric, you can close us out.
Yeah. I think ultimately the best place to follow along with this is going to be, for the technologists, it's going to be the GitHub. You're going to see how people are talking about it, what they're wanting out of it. And you can kind of get a feel for like what people are wanting out of the next versions of X402. The problems that people talk about are like usually based on real needs that they're seeing, which presents opportunity, right? If there's a problem that can be solved, usually the person that can effectively solve that will hopefully have themselves a good opportunity ahead of themselves. But then the rising tide kind of lifts all boats in the same regard. There's other people can leverage the innovations that go into that. In terms of ecosystem, there's an X402 bazaar where you can kind of see all the different projects that are building on it. So that's kind of a fun place where you can kind of see not everything, but a lot of people that are interested in X402 and what they're building on. And then also, one of the interesting things you're starting to see from major vendors like, say, Google, Cloudflare, right, is they're starting to get X402 involved in agent-to-agent payments. So start to watch from these bigger tech companies as well, as when they start to talk about X402, how are they talking about it? What are they wanting to use it for? And I think that'll kind of give you a general feel of where things will be heading.
Anything you want to add, Eric?
I mean, I think Matt nailed it. We're in the process of moving X402 into a foundation. We announced this a couple weeks ago. Coinbase and Cloudflare will be the two first members of the foundation. And so the foundation will have like official comms channels. We think it's super important for X402 to be truly neutral and open standard and not governed by a singular company or entity. So right now we're kind of in like an awkward middle phase where like, the official comms channels are going to transition to like foundation-based X accounts and so on. But yeah, I'd echo what Matt said. The GitHub's a great place. There's like great key opinion leaders that are emerging in the space, like Bob and Matt and myself, all of them, and more to come. Stay tuned.
Awesome, guys. Thanks for holding our hands as we sort of walk through the early days of this new standard. I think, again, intersection of blockchains, payments, business, agents. I mean, how are you not excited about what the future might bring us? God, I can't speak. 11 a.m., Eric, am I right? Is it 11 a.m. where you are, my friend?
Definitely 9 a.m.
Definitely 9 a.m. All right, I know you guys have things to get to. Appreciate you guys hanging out with us today. Go give these gentlemen a follow. Something interesting is going to emerge from this. It's worth paying attention to.